Bellrum Publishing presents The Ghost of Abdul, a horror novel adapted for a movie. Introduction. On his daughter's wedding day, while driving to the store to pick up one last item for his daughter's wedding, Abdul Robinson, a black motorist, is pulled over by a white police officer, James Anderson, who shot and killed him for no apparent reason. The police department justifies the killing, and Anderson gets away with murder, but not for long. Shortly after Abdul's funeral, his ghost began to appear at Anderson's home every night and tortured him relentlessly for the rest of his life. Anderson, the racist and arrogant cop who only believes in his gun, has no idea that there are unseen and unknown powers that are higher than the power of the gun. He had previously shot and killed 5 unarmed and innocent black men for no apparent reason and had gotten away with the murders. But, shortly before taking his own life, Abdul's ghost will remind him that he's being haunted by him, the last innocent black man that he killed. Chapter 1. It's 10 a.m. on Saturday. Black motorist Abdul Robinson, 48 years old, married, with 4 children, is leaving his house all dressed up in his white suit, white hat, and red bow tie. It's his daughter's wedding day. He's about to get in his red Mercedes-Benz to start driving to the store to pick up one last item for his daughter's wedding. He's walking out of the door. His wife, 46 years old Rosalind Robinson, comes to the door. She hugs and kisses him and say to him, "Honey, don't be late, okay? This is our daughter's wedding, and it won't start until you return." Abdul replies, "I won't be late, honey. I promised. I'm just going to the store to pick up one last thing for the wedding, and I'll head right to the church." His wife says, "Be careful driving, honey." Abdul looks at his wife with a smile on his face and says, "I will." Now, Abdul is driving his red Mercedes-Benz on a small rural road that does not have a lot of traffic. He is complying with all traffic rules, including stopping at all the stop signs and obeying all posted speed limits. He even slows down for a squirrel that's crossing the street. Abdul never touches his phone when he is driving. He never answers calls, except when they are from his family, and he always pulls over to the emergency lane to answer them. Abdul is so cautious about his driving, he never even eat or drink even water while he is driving. He always leaves the road and pulls to a parking lot to eat or drink something. He also returns all his phone calls while he is in the parking lot. Abdul never even gets a parking ticket in his entire life. As Abdul continues driving, he reaches a 4-way intersection. He just passed a police car that station on the shoulder. The lights turn red, and he stops. The lights turn green, and he continues driving. White police officer James Anderson, 42 years old in the squad car, begins to follow Abdul. He activates his red and blue lights with siren behind Abdul's car, which prompts Abdul to pull over to the shoulder and stops right away. Abdul remains seated in his car with his seatbelt fastened. Officer Anderson turns his body camera off and gets out of the squad car and walking towards Abdul's car with his hand on his waist on top of his service revolver. As he continues walking towards Abdul's car, Abdul is looking at him through the rear view mirror, and Abdul begins to pray, "Oh Lord, please, don't let this man shoot me. I have a wife and kids to take care." The police officer reaches Abdul. He pulls his service revolver. He points it to Abdul's head outside of the car window and he begins to scream loudly at Abdul, "Lower the fucking window now," while he spins his index finger in a downward and spinning motion. Abdul lowers his window right away. While the officer still pointing his gun at Abdul, he shouts loudly at him in a rough tone voice, "Do you have your fucking license, registration, and proof of insurance?" Abdul reply, "I do, sir. They are in the glove compartment. Can I get them?" The officer, with his gun pointing at Abdul and every move Abdul makes, screams loudly at him, "Hurry up before I blow your fucking brains out." Abdul pulls the documents out and try to give them to the officer, and the officer never even look at the documents. With his gun still pointing at Abdul's head, the officer shouts at Abdul loudly as he commands him to step out of the car with his hands up. Therefore, Abdul gets out of the car with his hands up. The officer screams at Abdul loudly and commands him to turn around and walk backward towards him with his hands up. Abdul turns around and walks backward towards the officer with his hands up. Abdul fully comply with all the officer's commands. While Abdul is walking backward towards the officer with his hands up, he asks the officer in a soft and gentle voice, "What did I do wrong, officer?" Officer Anderson shouts loudly at him, "Shut the fuck up. You're f***ing pisses me off now. Walk backward towards me with your hands up now." Abdul, with a calm and soft voice answers, "That's what I am doing, officer." While Abdul is walking towards Officer Anderson backward with his hands up, Officer Anderson shoots him in the back. Abdul falls to the ground face down and Officer Anderson shoots him 3 more times in the back. Abdul dies on the ground by the driver's side of his car while the door is open. and Officer Anderson plants some drugs on him. Officer Anderson gets back on his police car and drives away, leaving Abdul's dead body on the ground in a pool of blood. After Anderson drives away, a plume of bluish-white smoke lifts off Abdul's body, flies up in the air and disappears. Then, an ambulance comes and removes the body. Please, click on the link in the description to purchase the book.